It's a day of Game 5s in the National Hockey League. The Boston Bruins and Maple Leafs will go head-to-head in Game 5. Avalanche, Jets, and the Predators, Canucks. All of these series are going into Game 5. All of these series also have the favorite leading 3-1. We'll figure out which favorite we like tonight to close things out and which teams we think can hang on and extend the series. Welcome, guys, to PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. Happy to be here with you to break down these games. Carm, it's been a great playoffs, but we do have a lot of these series in Game 5 with potential closeouts. And, of course, as we saw yesterday, Florida, the Panthers, closing out the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we'll start here with the Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. Side or total, where are you going here? What are your thoughts in this elimination game?
This is a good one, Andrew. I was on WagerTalk yesterday, and it was a game I covered. And you got to know, when you're on WagerTalk today and you're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're going to get a little bit of backlash from the press, of course. But he was of the mindset that the way this series has gone, the Leafs are just going to go into Boston and surprise them and get the win. He wouldn't bet me on it, but because I would have loved to have taken his money, or at least tried to take his money from him. Andrew, the first couple games in Boston, you looked at the analytic numbers, and the Leafs played extremely well. Even in the game in which they lost 5-1, they had all the advantages. They just could not pull the trigger. They just could not score. They were able to do that in game 2. But this series shifted to Toronto, and it is like the Leafs are on the road at home. They have lost with that losing both games. That made 7 straight games in the playoffs at home they've lost. You cannot be an elite team in the NHL or want to be considered an elite team in the NHL if you cannot win your games at home in the NHL playoffs. And it looks like at this moment, it's going to be Joseph Woll in goal. No, the goalies haven't been confirmed. I'm seeing up on the screens Swayman versus Woll in this one. And it's the price is right on the Bruins, minus 165. I don't think you can make them any higher than that, even though they could very well be higher just the way that they're playing. They are a grinded out team that knows how to win in the playoffs, and a lot of veterans on that team who are showing up. They're getting scoring from their second and third lines, and they are finding ways to shut down the Toronto Maple Leafs, who we're going to talk about in a new segment today called Overreaction Tuesdays. So we'll get to that after the second game, Colorado and Winnipeg. Andrew, it's a closeout game, and it's not a game 6. It's not a game 7. It's a game 5. So game 6 could also be a closeout game if the Leafs somehow win. The 5.5 is just standing right out to me. It had gone to 6, only one game in this series, and then reverted back to 5.5. I'm going to go over in this game. I think we see some goals. And, when we talk about closeout games, if you had the under in the Tampa Bay game, I feel bad for you yesterday. If you had over, donate at your local church because you got lucky. The empty net goals just kept on coming, and that game turned into a 6-1 final and, blew the doors off of any bets either way. I'm looking for the same here tonight. I think if the Leafs fall behind and they're down a couple of goals, they're pulling that goalie early and often. Andrew, over 5.5 minus 120 is my play here.
Over 5.5. And as you mentioned, Carm, we did see some 6s there. No 6.5. We did see some 6s when the series was in Toronto, but now back to Boston, back to the 5.5 totals. It's an interesting situation here because, from a team-by-team perspective, we've had Nylander miss the first 2 games of the series. And then something that I've never seen before, a player with Austin Matthews missing the third period of the last game. And I think that I saw a video on Twitter or X, and you always see people trying to read lips. It's hard to really put this out as factual information, but of him pretty much saying to a skater, a coach, that he can't even skate, Austin Matthews. So they've been saying he's been dealing with an illness, a flu bug, whatever it may be. But it looks to, in practice, they pretty much said yesterday, there's a good chance that he's not playing. They're planning for him not to be playing right now, and it's going to be a surprise and a bonus if he is out there. And that's the thing, guys, is that when you look all season long, right, on PuckTime, we talked about how it might not have been a bad bet to take Austin Matthews to score a goal anytime. The guy scored 69 goals on the season. You take 69 goals away. You take that regular season away, that score away from this team. Then all of a sudden you need Holmberg, you need Yarncroc to play well. You need secondary guys to really step up their performances. But when it comes down to it, Carm, the ultimate success here is goaltending. And, I have to shout it out to, I'm going to call him a Canadian icon. He might have said a few things and he might have accidentally crossed lines, but I don't think he meant to. Don Cherry put out a video yesterday, and he actually said that he thinks, look, the big difference has been goaltending, and he thinks people shouldn't be so hard on Mitch Marner, that he's actually pulled his weight. When it comes down to it, Carm, I think that we're going to get an opportunity to live bet the over. That's the thing. Like right now, you can go to some shops, guys, and you can bet the over 1.5 goals in the third period at a pretty decent price. Shop around for that, because that's what I've been doing in these elimination games. I used to do it all the time, and I've returned to it as well. Of course, Carm mentioned these elimination games do go over quite a bit. We talked about yesterday with that game, but also, 4-2 Rangers versus Capitals. That's the elimination game, and we're going to get a lot of these late goals in games, empty net goals. And we saw it with Tampa, and then even after the empty net goal went in, Florida still scored again. So that was unbelievable to look at. But for Boston, what's crazy is they really haven't offensively outplayed the Leafs. They've just made good out of all their chances. They turn the puck over, Marchand gets it, passes it to Pasternak, he scores. Frederick gets a breakaway. He's 20 feet away. He scores. And that's really been the difference. And special teams, as we've talked about, what's the number now, Carm? Like 1 for 13, 1 for 14. That's just not good enough. So I'm with you on the goals. I get it. But at the same time, it's one of those things where the analytics tell me we need to see goals. The watcher, the viewer in me says there's going to be goals. But then the Jeremy Swayman show is telling me, how can we pick goals in this game? Because the Maple Leafs haven't scored more than 2 goals in, I think, like 8 of their last 9 playoff games. It makes it very difficult for me. I'm going to take the Bruins. I'm going to take them first period money line. I'm going to take them team total over 3.5. If this Leafs team rallies together, it will be great to see. If they have it in them to kind of string it in. I mean, this is the elimination game. They should be the hungrier team. But at this point, no Austin Matthews. Top guys not performing well. I think this is the Boston Bruins game here. They want to close things out at the Garden. Last year, they had a 3-1 lead. They blew it. So, Carm, I'm going to lock in the Bruins. But one play I really do like, third period over 1.5 goals. That's where I'm isolating. And, guys, again, you can bet that pre-flop before the game even starts. Some books will give you third period totals.
Pre-flop, he's throwing out the poker terms. I like it, Andrew. And listen, you make all valid points. So I'm not going to come back at you, Teddy Cover style on the over. My thoughts are just because it's a closeout game, but you're right in the sense of, you look at Austin Matthews. So when we look at Austin Matthews and we look at Mitch Marner, and then we got to get on to the next game, but look at Matthews and you can see the drop off since the guy has had the problems of missing a couple, 3 of the morning skates, just not being able to play in the third period. The first couple of games, he had 13 shots on goal, 5 in the first, 8 in the second. Obviously a 3-point night in the second game, in which the only win that they have in the series. But in this series, he has 19 hits. He's thrown his body around. Has it taken its toll? 3 in the first, 6 in the second, 8 in the third, and 2 in the last game where he couldn't play in the third period. We don't know what's wrong with him. He wasn't at the morning skate. They say it's an illness. He couldn't play the third period. You know the way the NHL works. It's just like every other league. You're never told what the problem is with the player until the series is over, and then you find out this player was dealing with this. Look at the Florida Panthers. We knew they were injured. There was injuries on this team. It wasn't until the series against the Vegas Golden Knights was over that it came out that 6 or 7 of their top players, all dealing with various injuries. And Tkachuk was one of them. He couldn't even get dressed for a game, and they got blown out in the last game. Would have it been a different series if the Florida Panthers were healthy? Who knows? But Vegas was a very good team last year, and they probably still would have won it. Andrew, you look at quickly Mitch Marner. He's got 2 points. He's a +1. He has a total of 6 hits. I get it. He's the small guy in the team. It's Mitch Marner. He's not supposed to be throwing his body around. But I'm sorry, if the guy who's got 69 goals for you during the regular season is out there throwing his body around, maybe you got to find one of the small guys and go at him. Him throwing his gloves on the bench like a 5-year-old, Andrew. We're going to talk about it after the next game that we discuss in our overreaction one. But we'll see what this team is made of tonight. It's Bruins or nothing for me. You know what I mean? And with it, I think there's going to be goals. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Well, there's still a game to be played, right? I mean, we can write them off, and people, the media can go nuts here in Canada, but when it comes down to it, there's still a game to be played, potentially more. So we'll see what happens. Carm, I did just see a post on X saying that Matthews is skating around today in the morning skate. So, at this point in the playoffs, you don't know what the mind games are, right? With the coaches, nobody wants to reveal any information. That's one thing that we're all aware of, and we all know the coaches like to do. That's for sure. Carm,
Andrew,
any props stick out to you here in this game?
They don't. I didn't look, and I've been doing extremely well with the prop markets the last, in the playoffs, but especially the last 10 days or so. We had another shot prop winner last night with Braden Point, but and then the same game parlay hit. I haven't looked at I looked at them briefly, and then there were some that was just juiced, and I didn't want to take them. We'll see if there's any line movement on the VIG. I don't want to be laying 160-ish on a shot prop and trying to incorporate one into the game, kind of like yesterday, say Bruins win and, Marchand over his number or Pasternak over his number. It might be something that I land on, but right now, nothing. And as far as him being on the ice this morning, that's probably a good sign for the Leafs, but I just don't believe anything I see anymore. I've been waiting every 3 months. I think Gabriel Landeskog is coming back to Colorado, and it's been 2 years now. He hasn't played a game because every update is he's in the gray shirt. He could be out and skating again, and it's 2 years removed from him being in the Colorado lineup. So when they drop that puck, I see who's on the ice. You just can't believe it anymore. I'm befuddled.
It's a bit deceiving. We've got some comments flying in here. We have John saying he's going right to the steakhouse. He's feeling pretty good about his Boston Bruins series bet. So, John, one more game for you, one more win for the Bees, and you'll be enjoying a nice steak. So, good on you. I hope you cash that ticket and enjoy the steak. We also have Devin Alexander in here saying Brad Marchand for a point today. And man, has he owned this Leafs team? He's done very well. So, hey, Brad Marchand to get a point, a little bit chalky, Carm. So, hey, that's fine. I have no problem with it because in the playoffs, the top guys have been performing well. If you're betting these top guys to get a point, I think at minus 170, 75, it's still been a pretty good bet. But if anybody out there does not like that juice and you want a combo, Bruins to win the game and Marchand to get a point plus 122 over at DraftKings. Pretty good number. I'd probably argue those two bets correlate together, whether Marchand is scoring or gets an assist. I think that's a pretty good correlation there for these teams. One thing I would argue is I think Bertuzzi to get a point is a pretty good bet. I think if you like the Leafs to get the job done, Bertuzzi has to play well. I think they need a scrappy goal. They need something out of that line. And I think if you put Domi, Bertuzzi, and Matthews out there all together, that's going to be a real scrappy line and tough to deal with. So the fact that it's minus 115 for him to get a point, Carm, I think is really worth a bet. Yeah. So That's it
Yeah.
for us on this game, on game number 1. We'll keep things moving, getting to game number 2. But guys, if you're with us here on YouTube, whether it's Instagram, Reels, Facebook, wherever you're watching, please show us some love, hit the like button, and most importantly, tell us who you are betting tonight, especially those player props. I want to know what you guys have in the player prop market. Carm, I was cheering on this Winnipeg Jets team. I thought they had a chance. I thought this was a team they could battle against here, but they've been losing the battles. They've been losing the special teams battles. They've been losing the battles along the boards. They've been losing the third period battles. And most importantly, and unfortunately, because the coach is from far east where I am, I was cheering for him, but I believe Winnipeg is getting out-coached as well. Do you think this is good night and off to Cancun for the Winnipeg Jets tonight? Is the series over?
We're going to see their best effort tonight. That's for sure. Because if we don't, they're done, Andrew. It's tough. The Avalanche just flicked the switch after, even you can say even game 1, because Georgiev in game 1 was not good. If he was even half as good as he's been all season long, this is 4 games. This would have been a 4-game sweep. They did score 6 goals on Hellebuyck in game 1, but he allowed 7 in that game. Andrew, Colorado's just playing so well right now. It is tough to make a case for Winnipeg to go back home after getting outscored 11-3 in 2 games. And you go back even further, you just look at the goals. They've allowed 5 or more goals in each game, each of the 4 games. And that's not the Winnipeg team that we saw all season long. This was a very good Winnipeg team and one of the best defensively, Andrew. I was looking at because I don't anticipate this being a low scoring game. I think we get the best out of Winnipeg tonight, whatever that may be. But I'm looking at the Avalanche team total. It's at 3.5 plus money. You're getting plus 105 right now on the Avalanche team total, over 3.5. And they've solved Hellebuyck. Whether there's something wrong with him or not, come on, man. There's no way this goalie has allowed over 4 games that many goals, and it's just because of the Avalanche pure talent. He's let in some softies as well too. But we never know. We never find out what is wrong with someone until the playoffs are over. And then all of a sudden they spring it on you and you're like, I wish I knew that beforehand. There is no transparency with injuries, if that even is an issue right now with Connor. But that said, Andrew, I want the Avs to close out this series. And I'm sorry about that, Andrew. I want the Avs to close out this series, and I'm looking at the team total. So I'm gonna go over 3.5 plus 105, and I'll likely load that as a very small client play as well.
Carm, there are people actually saying that Jets fans on social media saying that they kind of wanted to see Laurent Brossoit, and I was thinking to myself, you got to go down with the sword. You got to go down with the guy that got you there. I mean, their goalie is a Vezina candidate. He's going to win the Vezina most likely. And people are saying, hey, he's been solved. And I get it, like you were mentioning. But ultimately in those games, too, the defense hasn't been there. And when it comes down to it, I'm not saying Colorado relies on power plays because they score 5-on-5 too. Don't get me wrong. But Colorado, if you give them power plays, they're going to make you pay. A series between Colorado and Edmonton will be one hell of a watch because neither team can take a penalty because both those power plays are so strong. You look at the team total there, Carm, and, for me, I'm going to go ahead here and take a look at just the first period. And I'm going to take the first period money line, minus 105. Some books have plus 100. For the Winnipeg Jets. And what it really comes down to, Carm, is that you mentioned that we're going to get the best effort. We're going to get everything that the Winnipeg Jets have to offer. They're going to shuffle the lines. They're going to get some coaching adjustments. But something doesn't look right with this team. And I think it's really weird that Mark Scheifele, a leader on the team, kind of called out his own coach after the previous game. Not sure if you saw that, but he pretty much just said, they're making adjustments over there on their side. we're not making any adjustments. And for, that's pretty much like calling out your coach and the schemes and what you're doing on your side. But I don't trust this Winnipeg Jets team at this point for 60 minutes. They've lost my trust for 60 minutes. But from the first period, we've seen them compete. We've seen them come out strong. We know the depth that they have. They need a couple key saves. And of course, we're on the two-way line here, Carm, with it only being a plus 100. So if it's a push, if it's tied, you just get your money back. A few props to mention in this game. How do we not talk about Valeri Nichushkin? What a performance this guy has had in the first round. Last season for the Avalanche, in this same time of the year, he was in the player assistance program, was not with the team. And of course, they fall to the Seattle Kraken in the first round. Carm, he's plus 170 tonight. He has a goal in 5 straight games. He has a point in 5 straight games. He's gone over his shots on goal total in 5 straight games. When you've got guys like Makar, Rantanen, McKinnon that are already so talented, then you throw in a guy like Valeri Nichushkin that, I'll remind everybody at home, they pretty much got him for nothing when they acquired him. It's huge. So, we got to tip our cap, Carm, to the general management, with Joe Sakic and company for the Avalanche, picking up Walker, picking up Casey Middlestat, because they made some good moves to build around that top core. So I think that's a good bet to make there with Nichushkin. Arturi Lehkonen, you've been cashing on it. I've been cashing on it. I know a lot of people have been cashing on it. He started off at plus 135. He's all the way down to like minus 135, 140 to go over 2.5 shots, but he's certainly worthy of a wager. Josh Morrissey, Winnipeg Jets defenseman. I know it might sound funny, Carm, for a team struggling to score to look at a defenseman prop, but he's been getting a lot of shots from the point, scoring goals, assisting on the power play. He'd be out there as well. He's worthy of looking at it. The last one I'll mention, I bet this and released it to clients last game, and I had success with it. And I'll get your take on this, but I find this stuff interesting. So Monahan was 2.5, right, for his shots on goal total. He was going under pretty much every game, the last several games. They adjust him to 1.5. The price, though, is like minus 170. I said, no way. Last game, I got minus 165. There's no way you're going to give me 1.5 for a guy out there on the power play and a guy getting top 6 minutes. Well, Carm, he got the 2 shots in one shift in the second period. And so I'm going to go back to it again. And if you guys don't like that price, you can try and combo it with something else. But what I notice, and this is what it pays, it helps you out if you're watching the props every single day. A guy went from 2.5 where he was going under, but sometimes in a sport like hockey, they're landing on a certain number every single time. It's like a guy in football that has over 2.5 catches next to his name, but he's getting 3 catches every single game. It might not be exciting because he's not going way over the total, but when it comes down to it, he's cashing that ticket. So Monahan now at the 1.5 for his shots is certainly tempting. Sorry to be long-winded there, Carm, but I had a handful of stuff for that game.
No, Andrew, I'm sitting back and I'm taking notes. I'm writing down some of these plays, and I'm hopefully going to cash some of them along with you. We're going to do a quick little segment before we get into the last game, but I want to mention on our live lines, which is absolutely free. You guys, I always mention it. You can see line moves as they happen. I think, Andrew, that the note with or the tweet or the information that's out with Austin Matthews being on the ice today has obviously affected this Bruins line. So if you like the Bruins, you're going to get a better price because it's gone from 165. It is now down to 145 with the news that Austin Matthews is on the ice. There is no news that he's playing that I know of, but the fact that he's on the ice, people expect him to be in the lineup. How effective he'll be if still dealing with the illness or injury remains to be seen. But Andrew, listen, what would Tuesday be without some overreactions. So let's call this segment Overreaction Tuesday, Andrew. I'm going to rapid fire 3 of them at you. Are you ready? Steven Stamkos, I say, and a lot of people say just played his last game in Tampa Bay. He is gone. He is leaving. He will be on another team next season. Overreaction, Andrew?
I think that would be an overreaction, but I think it's true. Can those two things be right at the same time? I think all day today on social media, all last night, really, we already started seeing candidates pop up, people making videos. Who is going to be the team that lands Stamkos next? When it comes down to it, Tampa's still going to get their bid. They're still going to make their offers. And what a lot of people fail to realize, especially when a player has already won Stanley Cups, not one, but multiple, you don't really want to leave that team. But he did say last year he felt very disrespected, Carm. He did not feel good about the management. He did not want to go into this season without a contract. So with that being said, he could leave. But right now, with what I'm seeing on social media, it's probably an overreaction.
Yeah, I just think, listen, we're a couple of years, 3 years removed from their last Stanley Cup run. They won 2, they lose in the finals, bounce in the first couple of rounds, and there's only 8 players on this team that remain from that Stanley Cup winning team. So salary cap has a lot to do with it, and they got there. I think he moves. Andrew, the Leafs. Yes, you guys, gone. Mitch Marner, gone, traded. If they can find a team to move him to, because he's got a no trade clause, I believe. But at the same time, this is a guy that if he can't help you win in the playoffs, he's got to be gone. Overreaction?
I think it's justified, Carm. I don't think that's an overreaction. I think it's justified. I mean, the core 4 is there for a reason, and the coaching staff's brought in. You can't fire Brad Treliving because he just got there last summer. But when it comes down to it, Shanahan's gone through several general managers, several coaches. At this point, MLSE has to step in and say, you know what? It's not on the coach. It might be on me. And it probably is on him as well. So one of the core 4 pieces has to leave. They have to sign more defensemen. They got to get rid of the coach and hit an absolute reset button. This team still has talent. They got to build the team around Nylander and Matthews, get some defense, and get a new coach in there. A lot of people think, and which is crazy because the series is still going on, but there's a lot of people thinking that Craig Berube will be the next head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, former St. Louis Blues coach. So if you guys can find any bets on that right now, that would probably be a really good bet to make. Craig Berube to be the next coach hired. Also, Carm, real quick, I saw a thing posted yesterday on Twitter. As a Canadiens fan, Marty St. Louis is the 7th highest tenured coach in the National Hockey League. There were 4 coaches fired this season in the NHL that were just given extensions last summer. I mean, could you imagine? You literally get extended. So these guys are guaranteed the money. The coaches are guaranteed this money. And the same thing goes for Sheldon Keefe. He was extended. So whether he's fired or whether he's working or not, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to owe him money for the next few years, which is something we're seeing a lot more in the NHL right now.
Yeah, Andrew, listen, coaches are like cartons of milk in your fridge. They all have expiry dates, my friend. And sometimes when it comes up, they've got to go. All right, last one, because we need to get to this ultimate game, Vancouver and Nashville. The NHL needs to reseed in the offseason, come up with a new plan to reseed teams after the first round. There's no reason why we should be seeing the New York Rangers playing the Carolina Hurricanes in the next round. No reason why we should be seeing possibly Colorado playing the Dallas Stars in the next round, who I think are 2 of the best teams. Sorry, Edmonton Oilers fans, 2 of the best teams in the Western Conference. They need to reseed after the first round and make it the best record against the worst record of the remaining teams. That's what needs to be done. Reaction, overreaction?
Carm, we can complain all we want. We've learned that Gary Bettman doesn't care about what we think. That's for sure. I think it's a really good reaction. It makes sense. It's a good take. But at the same time, how awesome is it to see the rivalries between fan bases, the rivalries between teams within the same division? That's one thing good about this that I have to give credit to the NHL, but I also don't like how it's set up because, as you mentioned, you have two teams playing each other in the second round that probably shouldn't be meeting until the conference finals. It feels to me like every season we get a matchup in the second round that basically feels like the winner of that matchup will be going on to be the Stanley Cup Finals. Certain series, second round, that is that Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals. We'll have to find out here, Carm, but I get your point there in the West, but I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think a big part of it's to do with ratings and those rivalries right now. How happy are people to see it, Boston versus Toronto and certain series rivalries like that?
All right. Good enough. Let's hit this next game.
Let's do it. And Carm, real quick, I have to remember we did have another comment talking about Mikko Rantanen, saying what happened to him. Nothing happened to him. He just has so much talent around him that he doesn't have to score every game. He has an assist in 4 of his last 5 games. That's a really good thing. The fact that we don't need a guy like that to score every game or to be playing his best, and yet they're on the verge of winning their first round series. So thank you for the comment on YouTube Shorts. Thank you for all of you guys bringing those comments constantly. We do appreciate it. And it helps us out. It helps keeps the show moving. It helps interact with you guys. All right, Carm, I'm not happy to admit this, but I did not get the chance to see what actually unfolded in the end of the game in Game 4 with Nashville and Vancouver. Did you get to see it live? What are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on this game, Canucks and Preds?
Yeah, if you're a Preds fan, that's one of those games, Andrew, that rips. We talk about ripping your heart out. It's 3-1. They miss an empty net. I think the guy hits the goal post. They score a goal. They score another goal with like 6 seconds left, and all the momentum has shifted to a Vancouver team who, through the 2 games in Nashville, weren't generating any type of offense, any shots on goal, but they found a way to win both games. We'll see what happens tonight, whether it's Casey DeSmith or not. He's listed as the probable goalie tonight, but he was dealing with an injury, which is why he didn't start Game 4. I would think that I wouldn't have a problem if they gave him another day off. If he's not 100% healthy, you give him another day off or another game off, because you don't want him getting injured as well too. And then you're down Demko, you're down Casey DeSmith, and now you're on your 3rd and 4th goalies who would have to be called up. We saw the Pittsburgh Penguins go through that a couple playoff seasons back where they had no goalies left for that team. This is one where, Andrew, Vancouver, it is unbelievable that Vancouver is up 3 games to 1 in this series with little or no output from Elias Pettersson on this team. He's -3 right now and has only registered 2 points, only 4 shots on goal through 4 games, 2 in the first, none in the second, 1 in the third, 1 in the fourth. You look at his shot prop, and I believe his shot prop is 2.5, but it's juiced to the under. I think it's a -130, -140-ish on the under. Who knows? Is there something wrong with this guy, or are they finding a good way to shut him down? If it's either one of them, you take his shot props under as well too. The one play that stood out here is because I think Vancouver is a much better team at home, and they've got all the confidence in this one, is because Saros is the only goalie that's confirmed as of now. As far as DK is concerned, DraftKings, Saros to allow over 2.5 goals is -145, Andrew, and I like that play. I think Vancouver gets to 3. Nashville is going to pull their goalie in that third period if Vancouver's got a couple goals and are up in the game two, whether it's 2-0, whether it's 2-1, you always have that option as well too. We saw empty net goals yesterday. Why can't we see them tonight? We may not need them. Over 2.5 goals allowed by Saros for me in this one.
All right. I like that. A little bit different than the team total bet there, and you get a better price and a different number there with Saros on the goals allowed. Carm, a quote from Rick Tocchet pretty much talking about how he felt that his team didn't play their best. They had a bad game and they still won. And I always like when coaches say that, because you're pretty much saying, we got lucky. We are fortunate. We played 48 minutes of bad hockey, or 55 minutes. And in the third period, we found a way. He said that he's feeling more confident going into this game, knowing they didn't play very well in the previous one, that if they had their best game and still almost lost. Maybe some gamesmanship, but either way, he's feeling good. They're back at home now. And I actually have to agree with him, because if you look at what Nashville was able to do in that game, get the lead, protect it, play solid defense, get great goaltending. Like, for Nashville to get to the 3-goal mark, that's their goal. They're not going to be a team, I don't think, that's 3-4, that's more than, 4 or 5 goals. They want to get to the 3-goal mark and just park the bus, play defense, and just hopefully they can sail to a victory. And sometimes it comes back to haunt you, Carm. So when it comes down to it, I am taking a look on the money line here for the Vancouver Canucks. I like the price. I think it's reasonable, of course. They're at home. And I think that they have the leadership there in the locker room. They also have the coaching staff to remind them they did not play their best game, and they still came out with the win. Going to need their best effort. I think that's what you look at here, the Vancouver Canucks, to get the job done. And again, I think if people like the Nashville Predators, you might as well just play props. Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, some of those top guys, because they're not a very deep team. If they score, it's the top guys that are doing all the scoring, Carmen. I'm sure you'd agree with me on that.
Yeah, and I misspoke on the goals allowed by Saros, and Parker corrected me on that. And I thought about it as I finished it off, is that even pulling the goalie, the empty net goals don't count against a goals allowed by a goalie. The prop for that was 145, Andrew. The team total for Vancouver is also 2.5, but is minus 160ish. So if you like them to get the 3, because you're figuring on those empty net goals in what could be a closeout game, then Vancouver team total over 2.5 minus 160 is the better one. So thank you for the correction. I get it wrong sometimes as well too, Andrew. And as far as like Rantanen goes, to that question that we had earlier, the guy's still doing well. It's not the Rantanen numbers we're used to, but he still has 6 points, a couple 2-point assist games and some single point assist games. He's still doing well. We just expect that with all the goals that the Avalanche are scoring, that you would expect to see Rantanen with about 4 or 5 of them himself. But they're scoring throughout that lineup in this series, Andrew.
And they are. I mean, it's not a bad thing that they need him to step up. If that's what they need, if that's what they're looking for, that means that they already have guys that are doing their job. They're guys that are stepping up and making plays. So I think that they're going to be just fine. I think Rantanen will probably be a big player in the second round, but man, the depth of that team right now is on full display. Just checking up here. You can get a plus 240 on a parlay with over 1.5 third period goals. Nashville, Vancouver, Boston, Toronto, and you toss on the Jets, Avalanche as well, bumps that up closer to a plus 300 price to get 2 goals in the third period in all 3 elimination games. I like the sound of those goals here. I'm not saying every game will go over the total. I'm just a big believer in those third period goals, the over 1.5 in the third period. And usually one of those goals is an empty net goal, and that counts. They all count the same here, Carm. So unless you have anything to add, Carm, we're good to wrap it up.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, when we look at with these closeout games, Andrew, we might look at like the sort of like the Grand Salami, and let's look at the Grand Salami. The problem, not every book offers it. You have to search for it. FanDuel used to have it. DK, I don't even know where it is. I only know of a few of them, and you can normally see on the Wager Talk live lines, if you scroll down from the NHL, you'll see a couple books that may offer the GS if you want to play them. I'd rather just stick to the sizes. I'd love to see some of these series go, 6, 7 games, unless of course I'm on the side of the team looking to close out the series. But it just looks like this first round is going to be, with the exception of the Dallas Stars, who won both games in Vegas. That looks like the only series that is going to be a series right now. The rest of these have been could turn out to all be 5-game series duds, Andrew. I'll call them duds, but you know what I mean. They're duds in the sense of we're not seeing 6 and 7 games, and who doesn't love a game 7 that goes to overtime?
I hope we can get something like that, man. I don't want to see all these series end early. One last thing to mention before we head out here, Carm. It's a big day at the website here, wagertalk.com. We have a really, really great deal going today. Take 25% off anything that you can fill your cart with here, as far as long-term, short-term packages, NBA, MLB, NHL, whatever it might be. And the promo code is full cart. Full cart. You can use that at Carmine's page. You can use it for hockey, soccer, whatever it may be. For me, CFL season, guys, around the corner. Take 25% off. Full season is a great time to take advantage and save some money. Okay, guys, we'll close things out. Carm, you're getting some love again here in the YouTube shorts for Eric Nolan. He tailed you on that same game parlay. Guys, comment below what you are betting. Thanks so much for being here with us on Puck Time. We really do appreciate it. We love coming on here, talking hockey with all of you. Hopefully we can cash some tickets. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Puck Time.